Welcome everyone, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. My name is Leonard Ducharme. I'm in the marketing department here at AgilePoint, and I'm joined today by Lucas Drege, who's a technical evangelist here at AgilePoint. Lucas is going to be talking to you specifically about low-code development platforms, why they are becoming so popular, and how they are really one of the major catalysts for digital transformation for an ever-growing number of companies. Before we get started, I want to cover a couple of things. First, all participants will be muted during the webinar. There's a chat space in your webinar panel. Feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, and you'll be free to ask all the questions you like. This session is being recorded, and the recording will be available in the coming days. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Lucas.
Great. Thanks so much, Leonard. Good afternoon and good evening for a few of you here. As Leonard mentioned, my name is Lucas Drege. I'm a technical evangelist with AgilePoint. And today we're going to be talking through how the low-code application platforms can be a great fit with your organization to build custom apps. We'll take you through a little bit about the AgilePoint approach to that sort of solution. And then we'll go through an example today of an application we've built with AgilePoint that we feel really highlights some of the functionalities and capabilities that a lot of our customers are seeing as they go down the path of digital transformation. So just to do some quick housekeeping for the demo today, there's going to be two main components to the presentation. So first things first, I'll go through a few slides here just to introduce a few of the concepts that you'll see later in the conversation and introduce some of the technologies. And then I'll transition over to a demonstration where we actually will highlight how the application platform from AgilePoint can help build different types of business apps. This particular example is going to use Salesforce, one of the most popular CRM systems in the market, but certainly could apply to a number of other enterprise systems as well that we'll talk through in a moment here. So before I get too far into the slide deck here, I did want to bring up our first poll question here. As Leonard mentioned, it's really important for us to interact with you to get a sense of what your interests are, where you're coming from, and maybe how we can tailor our conversation going forward. So we see some of our poll questions up here. I see a few responses trickling in. We'll give you guys another couple of seconds to input your answers here, and then we'll discuss as a group. All right, great. Let's go ahead and bring up those poll results. All right, great. So it looks like a fairly even split. It's a little heavy towards the developer side of things, which is great for the conversation that we're having today. So great to have everyone on the line, and looking forward to the rest of the conversation here. So to kind of set the context for the conversation today, we have a quote from analyst Ray Wang. Ray's bringing just the right amount of fear in this quote here. Right? If you look back to some of the Fortune 100s of years past, you'll find that a lot of them have since left. Right? Failure to adapt, often it spells death for many of these organizations. And that's really what we're here to talk about today, is how we can give you the ability to build apps quickly that will support and meet the needs of business requirements today, as well as over the longer term. So we're talking a lot about low code. What does digital transformation mean? And I think it's important to start with just a few of the main points, a few of the, the big drivers that we see when a customer of ours is looking to implement a low-code application platform. Now, there's obviously much more than just these three here, but we've kind of distilled it down to the most salient points. Right? And first things first, it's simply faster, right? I'm sure you've probably seen this before. There's a great Forrester report that speaks to this, right? That low-code application platforms allow you to roll out these applications 5 to 10 times faster than traditional Agile approaches. Not only that, but I'm sure that a lot of you, for your end users, they often have a tough time visualizing what their business requirements are until they can see, touch, or feel an application, right? So these low-code platforms, what they allow you to do is quickly validate, the minimum viable product, essentially allowing you to prove out the value of an application, then get it quickly into production. And then lastly, and this is something that we hear day in and day out, a lot of our companies, all of our customers don't have necessarily all of the technical resources in-house, right? So what these low-code application platforms can allow you to do is to lower the bar, right? To work alongside IT to build these types of applications, not exclusively under. Okay. So this brings us to the new paradigm, right? What is AgilePoint doing that's sort of different from some of the other methods that you may have seen in the past, right? So if we're going back to some of the more traditional Agile approaches, you probably started with something similar to on the left-hand side of the screen, where you have a Visio diagram that visually maps out the process elements. You know, what are the different steps involved in this process and who are the different stakeholders? Right? And it's usually accompanied with pretty heavy notation to understand how do I move from step 1 to step 2 or step 3 to step 4. Right, and obviously after creating this graphic here, what we usually see is it gets handed over to development, who then codes the application, right, and somewhere in between, right, in between the time where the product gets developed, right, business requirements tend to change, right. What we end up with ultimately is something that's usually an instant legacy, right, something that doesn't meet the business requirements, right, and ends up being a burden to support. Now contrast that with the low-code approach, right. We're skipping that very onerous code generation or code compiling process, and really, our process owners and our developers are speaking the same language, right? Essentially, what we're doing here is how we're configuring the visual graphic here becomes the model that then gets executed. So we're kind of skipping that code generation process, that back and forth that you often see with these big development projects, and allowing for the business analyst and the process developer to speak the same language. So far, we've talked a lot about what is low code, why is digital transformation important to organizations, and here I wanted to introduce just a few of the concepts that you'll see during the AgilePoint portion of the presentation. So when we talk about the AgilePoint product, really there's a few ways that you can consume it, right? On-premises, in the cloud, really kind of goes down to what your business requirements are and which is the better fit, right? Regardless of which you choose, most of our customers can switch back and forth between on-premises or cloud deployments of AgilePoint without any refactoring needed to their applications. So just one less thing to think about in that respect. But as far as the application itself, it's comprised of 3 major components, right? First and foremost being the HTML5 and JavaScript-enabled form builder. This is a responsive form application across devices, across orientations and form factors, and can really be summed up to how do I collect data or how do I distribute data to my business, right, so that they can make the right decisions as far as these processes go. Patterns and rules, right? This comes back to our enterprise BPM engine. How do we involve the right people to support a process, right? Whether they be folks that are in a different department or even external to my organization, right? How do I bring them all together to work towards a common goal? And then lastly, is around API integration. So this just basically means that whatever the nature of your infrastructure, whether it's cloud-based or on-premises in the data center, right, AgilePoint has a fairly unique ability to talk to any of those systems just as easily, right? So regardless of what you've deployed in your business, AgilePoint can support any of those systems. Okay, so now that we've gone through some of the meat of the slide side of things here, I want to bring up our next poll. All right, seeing that up here, seeing a few answers start to trickle in here. Give you guys another couple of moments here. All right, great. So let's bring up those poll results here. Okay, so looks like we got a few folks who are looking to do something in the next 6 months. A few others have yet to be convinced. All right, great. All right, guys, so with this portion of the presentation here, I'm going to switch into my demo environment. I'm going to bring up an example application that we built with AgilePoint. Now, just to talk through this example here a little bit, this is going to use Salesforce as our system of record primarily, though happy to use any other CRM systems that you might be familiar with, Dynamics for certain, as well as other enterprise systems as a whole, right? ERP, content management systems such as SharePoint. Right? So a lot of options here in terms of the systems that we're using, right? Salesforce just happens to be the example in this case. So what I've shared out here is my browser. You'll see I have a couple of tabs open. First and foremost being my Salesforce environment. This particular application is going to be a non-disclosure application, so any way we can manage contracts, say, prior to the close of a sale. That's how this application is going to be driven. Right? What's going to happen here is I'm going to mark an opportunity in a particular stage. Right? In this case, I'll use an out-of-the-box field for that example, though we can support custom fields as well. And then essentially, once I mark it into a particular stage, that will then kick off the contracts review process. Now this is going to involve a couple of different groups of people. It's going to involve myself playing a couple of roles as both the customer who receives the contract, the account executive within the organization who sends out the contract, and then my legal team, right? So a few different folks, right? Some of which operate within Salesforce, others are, in other systems, but internal to the organization, and others, completely external. So bringing together a number of different groups of people here to support this, this sales process. So the way things will start here is I'm going to move into my dummy account here, and I'm going to just create a new opportunity. Don't want to spend a whole lot of time entering data, but oops. Let's give it an amount. This is going to be important as we go through the rest of the demonstration here, and a close date. Now, as far as initiating this application is concerned, it's all going to be driven, as I mentioned here, by this stage field. Now, when I drop this drop-down menu here into the proposal or price quote stage, in this context, it indicates that I have an application or a contract that needs to go out to my customer and be reviewed, renegotiated, right, before we can move forward with the close of this sale. So something that we see in many organizations for certain, right, and certainly highlights very well the capabilities of AgilePoint NX. So just like that, what I did was just save the opportunity. Behind the scenes, it's kicked off a process. And what I'll do now is open up some of the AgilePoint components here and show you what that component is looking like. So as you can see here, I've transitioned away from the Salesforce screen into my AgilePoint portal. Now, this is certainly a component that can be surfaced in the systems that you use every day, right? In fact, we have an example of that here. Let me show you that. So the AgilePoint dashboard here is loading behind the scenes, but as you can see, right, I have the same components from a task management perspective surfaced in the systems that I use every day, right? So whether I want to use the standalone AgilePoint portal, right, or something like Salesforce, which is familiar to my users, right, I have options here in terms of how I receive and how I manage these tasks. Now what you can see here directly from the confines of Salesforce, right, is my task management component here, and you'll see I'm at the stage where I need to upload the NDA. Now, in this case here, I am the salesperson for the organization, right? I've marked an opportunity as being in a certain stage, right, ready for contract review, and as such, I need to initiate that process. So that starts here by opening up a form. And as you'll see here, this is rendering natively within Salesforce, and it's brought over some of the values from my opportunity here in that prior screen. My opportunity name, account name, obviously my name, contact details, etc., and the ability to now add a new file into this form. So I've selected a file from my desktop. I'm going to attach it to this form, and it's going to be routed through different levels of approval. Right now, as we discussed, in this case here, I am playing the role of a salesperson, so I've attached my non-disclosure agreement, and it'll now be sent off to my customer for review. So while that's happening behind the scenes here, I wanted to explain a little bit about what we're looking at here. Right, we've obviously seen, this concept here of my task list, all of the items that have been assigned to me across, a multitude of different applications, right, all centrally located here. In queue, right, really helpful maybe if I'm part of the accounts payable team or any concept of sort of a shared work list, right? We often see this very commonly in call center scenarios as well. I get personalized insight into processes I've started or worked on. Right, so this is obviously going to be tailored to who I am in the organization and what I've worked on, things I've done. All right, then I can go in here to get some good insight into where my processes stand. Right, really helpful if you want to know, where the bottlenecks exist, right, how long it might take for the next step in the process to become approved. Right, it's great to have this individual sort of very granular end user level reporting. And just to take a quick look for reference's sake, you'll see that we've kicked off this particular application. It's now in the account review stage. So we'll go back to my AgilePoint dashboard here, and I'll see that I have a task that's been allocated to me. Okay, well, it looks like I'm having a bit of a tough time here at the moment. I'm having a bit of a hiccup with my environment here. Apologies, folks. See if we can kick off another one here. So if I go back to my AgilePoint dashboard here, assuming, yep, there we go. Just have to kick this off one more time here. My apologies, folks. Okay, so moving things forward, we're going to go ahead and attach the non-disclosure. Once that's been submitted, our process kicks off. And this task here is going to drop off of my work list. Now, since we had to start the process over again, the next step in the process here is going to be the customer review section here. So in just another moment here, what I'm going to do is, and I just got a notification via email. There we go. Okay. And now directly, again, within the confines of AgilePoint or within Salesforce, right, this form is going to render. And oops, looks like that has been reassigned. My apologies. There we go. Selected the wrong one. All right, great. So it's brought in some of the details from my Salesforce record here. Obviously, the opportunity name, account, my contact details, etc. I see here the form that's been uploaded for me, so I can open this, I can review the document, right? If I'm agreeing upon the terms, I can obviously print, sign, and upload, but there's a couple of other scenarios that we needed to account for as well. Maybe we're too far off, we'll never reach any sort of agreement with these terms here, we can go ahead and cancel the request. If I wanted to request a revision, right, maybe I needed some specific language inserted into this particular contract, I can build that in directly here and give some guidance as to how I'd like the changes made. Or, in this case, I can select print, sign, and upload. So what I would do here is I would essentially sign that non-disclosure agreement. So I would select it from my machine here, submit it, say, great, things look wonderful, let's move the process along here. Now, given that this was a very short process, right, it really only involved a couple of external people from my organization, right, we had legal, we have the customer who needed to approve the contract or maybe add some language to the terms and conditions, right? And everything is completed. So what we do here as the last step is we've actually added in an activity into Salesforce that says, okay, the contract has been approved, right? Things look good. I need to send a note to my account executive to go ahead and send this document off to my customer, right? Things have been completed, the process has come to an end. All right, so some great integration here. Obviously, we saw a process that was launched natively from Salesforce, right? Used an out-of-the-box status field to launch a new application. Integration, obviously, from an activity perspective with Salesforce, you'll see we have this activity here that's waiting for my salesperson to send off that agreement. And then obviously we involved a number of different people, some of which are external to Salesforce and others who are external to the organization as a whole here. So really you can see the flexibility that this application is bringing to the table and how you can use it obviously in this use case as well as a couple of others. So with that here, I'm just going to transition back to my slide deck to do the remaining portions of the presentation here before we wrap up. So obviously the example you saw earlier was around Salesforce. This is something that we see pretty heavily used, but certainly not the only example, not the only area where we can use AgilePoint NX. Right? Other customers are looking to expand upon the capabilities of SAP, right, or that of SharePoint, right? So a lot of options here. Really it's a matter of what are you using today in your business, right? Where can you build applications that meet your business requirements? And the answer then is obviously something that AgilePoint can fit into quite nicely. Okay, so wanted to bring up the last poll here. We'll give you guys here a few seconds to input your answers. I see a few starting to trickle in. All right, give you another second or two here, and we'll bring up those poll results. All right. Okay, so it looks like most of you are looking to build applications or processes that span departments. Looks like you're slightly edging out building new apps fast. And great, hopefully you can use some of the question and answer components here of this webinar. If you still have questions that have been unanswered, we'd definitely love to hear your feedback and things like that. So with that said, wanted to transition to the Q&A here, and we're seeing a few of those start to trickle in here. First question that I'm getting is, will AgilePoint work on both Salesforce Classic as well as Lightning? So for those of you who don't know, Salesforce Lightning is the new UI experience from Salesforce, really geared towards enabling easier customization from a look and feel perspective. And the answer to that question is yes. Now, a lot of our customers have come to us and said, hey, we had to build applications in Salesforce, and now we're looking at this migration to Salesforce Lightning. Do we need to refactor our applications? Yes, absolutely. Natively, you would. Certainly not the case with AgilePoint. So something important to point out there. Okay, I've got another one coming in here. How technical do you have to be to use AgilePoint? Well, we generally see all stripes, all sorts of users using AgilePoint. Anyone from business analysts to professional developers. Right? Everything that you saw today was built exclusively in a drag, drop, and configure sort of method. That being said, we do realize that there are going to be business requirements that require you to extend the platform as well. Right? So, great use case if you wanted to maybe extend some of those legacy apps that you have. You wanted to modernize them with different types of functionalities. Right? One of the great things about AgilePoint is you don't have to necessarily be a developer to build new applications, nor to extend some of those that you have in your business today, right? We generally see this as a partnership between, the process owners and IT, right? Not working under IT, if that makes sense. Okay. One question here coming from the SharePoint world. Question is, we have multiple SharePoint farms, different versions, some in the cloud and on premises. Will we have AgilePoint workflows that work across any version of SharePoint and Office 365? The answer is yes. So that's a fairly unique architectural element of AgilePoint in that one single process can work across multiple versions of SharePoint, whether that's SharePoint 2007 and 2010, right, or Office 365 and SharePoint 2016, right? Regardless of how you're consuming SharePoint, a single AgilePoint process can support any of those different environments. Great question, great question. Okay, and just seeing one last question here. So question is, how is AgilePoint licensed? A couple of ways that we can consume AgilePoint in that regard. So we have this concept of a per user license, right? So we can have sort of the traditional dedicated user seat licensing, right? One license, one user. On the other hand, there is a very flexible licensing model that we've put forth more recently, and there's a concept of a shared or concurrent licensing model. So what this really does is, for those of you who are just have maybe one or two processes in mind, you're not really looking to make a huge investment yet, this concurrent model really allows you to license based on processes, right? So if you have, let's just say, an organization of 1,000 users, right, it's very likely that a concurrent license of 50 or 60, could serve that entire user base, right? Because there's really only, 50 maybe, or give or take, accessing the system at any given time, right? So that really allows you to kind of target, who is using AgilePoint at any given moment. Okay. I have a couple other questions around, do we support groups, planner? Absolutely, yes, that is certainly something that we support. Beyond the consumer products in the Office 365 suite, we do also have support for Office 365 admin actions as well. So a lot of our customers have been building on or offboarding types of solutions, right, with those hooks directly into the Office 365 admin console can really help there. Is there any learning material available on AgilePoint? Absolutely. So we go about that a couple of different ways. So on a monthly basis, we do hold a training that is online. In addition to that, there is AgilePoint University. So that's a self-paced, pre-recorded training program that takes you through building a couple of applications yourself. So, you know, beyond the public training and the training online, there is obviously customized training that we can put together a package for you as well. Okay, and it looks like we have time for another couple of questions here. Integration with Power BI, yes, absolutely. That is something that we do support today, and actually coincidentally is going to be the topic of one of our next webinars. So stand by on that one. All right. Well, great, folks. I think that's all the questions that we have time for today. Definitely appreciate your interaction here. You know, glad to have your questions, and hopefully this was helpful. As we said earlier, this demonstration will be recorded, will be distributed off to you. But please feel free to reach out to us, you know, as you see fit. We're definitely happy to help and happy to share some of our experiences with our customers. Thank you very much.